All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this Passive House Component Spotlight featuring LAMILUX and its new modular skylight system that's available here in North America. My name is Zach Semke, and I'm director of Passive House Accelerator. And I'm super excited to have this presentation today by Jeremy Latriano of 475 High Performance Building Supply, and really happy that you've joined us today. And I'm also really excited to be joined by Sean St. Amour, who will be playing the role of Q&A concierge. So as questions occur to you during the presentation, please type them into chat and we will get to them during the discussion session. It's really great to have Sean here to do that for us. So a big thank you to Jeremy Latriano, who is the Daylight Product Consultant at LAMILUX and a key team member at 475 High Performance Building Supply. I want to give a shout out to both LAMILUX and 475 for being sponsors of the Passive House Accelerator. We're very grateful for that support. And so 475 is distributing LAMILUX products to the North American market, and LAMILUX is debuting this brand new unit, and there's really nothing else like it available on the market. So, and we at the Passive House Accelerator, all of us here, the audience, are the first to hear about it. So it's pretty cool. A bit about LAMILUX. LAMILUX has long been a market leader in skylight innovation, pairing sophisticated engineering with the world's most stylish skylights. For the last 12 years, 475 High Performance Building Supply has been LAMILUX's partner in delivering these innovative skylight solutions to forward-thinking projects in the US and Canada. Continuing this tradition of developing novel daylighting solutions, 475 is proud to introduce the LAMILUX Modular Glass Skylight MS78. A modular skylight is new to the high-performance industry and offers a combination of exceptional performance and safety, while its modular nature gives designers more flexibility. The LAMILUX MS78 system has been crafted to ensure ease of installation even when multiple modules are placed together. By relying on peerless engineering, diligence in quality control, and a commitment to high-performance components, the LAMILUX MS78 will stand the test of time while also offering superior ventilation, aesthetics, and best of all, design freedom. With that, Jeremy, please take it away.
Very excited to be here today to talk to you all about the LAMILUX's new product, the MS78, a modular skylight system, which they're actually currently selling and producing in the EU, and that we're very excited to be bringing to the US and Canada as soon as November. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeremy, and as Zach so graciously mentioned, I am the Daylight Product Consultant at 475 High Performance Building Supply. At the end of this month, I will have been at 475 for about 7 years. And for most of that time, I have been serving as a Daylight product consultant, specializing in our Daylight products, specifically skylights from LAMILUX and FACRO. I was previously an adjunct lecturer at City College, where I helped to teach architecture and sustainability students about the fundamentals of passive house and net zero style construction. As part of my adjunct lecturer role, I also helped to implement a certification course for architecture students, which prepared them for CPHD certification through PHN. For much of 2023 and some of 2024, I had the opportunity to work remotely from Bozeman, Montana, where I spent a lot of time outdoors, hiking, fishing, camping, snowboarding. And my passion for sustainability really comes from wanting to preserve and conserve that access to the outdoors for future generations. For those of you who may not be familiar with our company, I highly recommend checking out our website, www.475.supply in the US and ca.475.supply in Canada. A great resource to learn more about any of our products, including our Daylight products, and also has extensive knowledge resources, which provided a variety of information about high-performance passive house style construction, as well as walkable skylights. Most of the skylights that we supply are delivered via special order coming from the manufacturers in Europe, with lead times ranging from about 10 to 15 weeks, depending on the product group. But we do also stock skylights here in the United States, both LAMILUX curb mount skylights via the FE system in several sizes, and the FACRO FNP fixed deck mount skylights, also available in several sizes with flashing kits. The Daylight products that we supply are one category of product at 475. We got our start supplying air and vapor control materials, primarily through Proclima, and we've also gone on to partner with Stego. for subgrade air and vapor control. We also supply insulation, wood fireboard insulation through Gutex, and quality control tools via the PHPP and Design PH SketchUp tool. More recently, we started supplying a centralized ventilation system, ERV system via Brink, and we continue to supply our decentralized system, Lunos. But today, I'm really excited to talk to you about roof daylighting, specifically the LAMILUX product group and that MS78 modular skylight, which we're looking forward to bringing to market next month. So the modular glass skylight, pictured here, you'll see in the blog post and also on LAMILUX's website that the MS78 is being marketed as a sort of combination of products. For those of you who are familiar with the LAMILUX catalog, they have compared the system, the MS78 system, to the LAMILUX FE. And the MS78 shares with the FE short delivery times thanks to lean automated processes, high quality standards thanks to a high degree of automation, and simple, secure roof connection details that are designed and engineered by LAMILUX. With the PR60 glass roof system, the MS78 shares large areas of daylight thanks to its multi-pane glazing system, and secure roof drainage thanks to 2 drainage levels integrated into the modular skylight system. So some highlights about the system. It is optimized to provide the most daylight possible, thanks to a high proportion of glass due to very large available module sizes. In addition, thanks to the system's native vent integration, the fixed modules and operable modules have an identical appearance. There's no narrowing of the glass due to a clamping frame on the venting modules. And for this reason, the full surface of glass is able to provide light, whether it's fixed or operable. As I mentioned, operable and fixed modules have a uniform appearance, which is nice from a design perspective, in addition to optimizing daylight, and really allows you to maximize that ventilation area as there is no restrictions on how many venting modules can be used consecutively. The system also utilizes a unique drainage profile, which allows the system to drain water effectively at the joints between the modules, and it has an optimized construction process and a self-aligning module connection, which makes installation very simple and in many cases capable of being completed in a day or even less. So looking at a quick breakdown of the system, I'll get a little bit more into the assembly later in the presentation, but just to kind of give an introduction here, the MS78, as I've mentioned a few times now, is a modular system. So it comes created as a kit of parts, but it's largely prefabricated into modules. So we have the on-site substructure, which will be constructed prior to the MS78's arrival, insulated and flashed. We then have the basic frame, which is the structure for the modules that will be mounted outboard of its assembly. We have insulation that gets put in place around this frame and then is concealed with the weather sheets, which also provide the primary drainage level. And then we have the flap or fixed element, the module itself, which gets set into that frame, providing for the completed result. Some basic specs about the MS78. At this point, it's only available in a single slope design. So sort of as shown in the images I've shown thus far, a monopitch assembly without any ridged or hipped options available at this time. The module heights are standardized, as are the widths. I'll get into that in a couple of slides, but the heights can be as tall as about 90.6 inches, and the system can be as long as about 66 feet. The site substructure, which, as I mentioned, will need to be constructed by others for the MS78 to be mounted to, can be made out of really any material, as long as it provides a load-bearing surface. So concrete, wood, and steel are all acceptable. The MS78 is restricted in that it can only be installed on roofs with slopes of about 5 to 30 degrees. And the on-site substructure or upstand, otherwise known as a curb, is going to need to be 10 and about 1/4 inch for all applications. The system is available with triple layer glazing with a UG value of about 0.11. And we have a couple of different options available for transparency. Our standard 60/30 glass with a visual transmittance of 60%, solar heat gain of about 30%. And then we can also provide reduced solar heat gain glass, which brings down the visual transmittance to 50% and the solar heat gain to about 25%. The thermal transmittance of the assembly is about 0.21. That will vary slightly depending on the size of the modules that are selected and how many modules are needed. The system is powder coated with an anthracite gray finish at the exterior, a couple different gloss levels available there, and then a classic traffic white at the interior. The modules can be venting in any sequence or in any combination, and they have a 24-volt chain drive actuator, which is available in a couple different lengths and is actually concealed from view from the interior, which again provides nice clear sight lines and maximizes the amount of daylight that the system allows. I'll get into a little bit about the installation of this system, but what's nice is that it's always mounted from left to right, with modules being installed in sequence adjacent to one another, which just makes it very simple as you're uncrating the skylight to put it into place immediately. Although we're not able to sell the skylight just yet, a few more weeks, it is ready for North America, fully tested in accordance with ASTM and with chain drive actuators that are UL listed. So once we get that go-ahead from LAMILUX, we're really looking forward to rolling it out for y'all. Every MS78 will be supplied with shop drawings, or shop drawings will be provided prior to its construction. These shop drawings are relatively simple compared to the maybe more complex shop drawings of the PR60 system, which takes into account more site-specific parameters. Because the MS78 is relatively standardized in its construction with predefined curb widths and module widths and heights, the shop drawings themselves simply show a longitudinal section, a cross-section, a section through the assembly at the ridge, and a section through the assembly at the eave. Here we see the longitudinal section. You can see the site-built substructure on either side with that required width of 10¼ inches. And here in the table on the left, you can see the different module widths that are currently available, from about 26½ inches to about 47¼ inches. The modules on either end of any MS78 skylight must be identical in width, but the intermediate modules or the middle modules can vary in width depending on design parameters or the best combination of module widths in order to achieve a specific system length. Here we see a cross-section of the system, which is taken through the height of the MS78. Here is where the slope is achieved between 5 and 30 degrees. And we can see that the module lengths are available from about 27½ inches to about 19½ inches. Worth mentioning here, I think, is that LAMILUX does supply larger, both in terms of length and width, modules for the MS78 system. So if you go to their website, you might see additional options. However, in North America, the system is only tested up to the module widths and lengths that I've defined in this presentation. We're hoping to be able to provide the full suite of options later on, but for now, this is the system requirements that we are currently dealing with. Looking at the attachment of the MS78 at the eaves, here you can see a closer look at the assembly of the system. I'll show some pictures of this, which I think will help clarify how these parts come together. But what you can see here is the load-bearing brackets, which are pre-attached to the modules themselves and fastened to the substructure below. Fasteners are supplied by LAMILUX based on the substructure that's defined, whether it's wood, concrete, or steel. But we do require that this substructure is flashed and insulated prior to the MS78 being delivered and installed, so that we can ensure that the flashing connections and thermal connections can be guaranteed on site during the installation. Those load-bearing connections are thermally broken via mineral wool insulation, which is also supplied as part of the MS78 kit. And then it's all concealed by this weather strip, or weather cap, as LAMILUX calls it, which provides a nice, clean aluminum aesthetic finish that you'll see in the images. Very similar structure at the ridge. Some differences in that the water drainage channels, which I'll show in a couple of slides, are not necessary at the ridge because the water will be draining downslope towards the bottom of the skylight. But otherwise, the requirements for the substructure are the same, and the assembly is largely identical as well. So when designing for the MS78, the design considerations are relatively simple. We need to define the roof inclination, again, between 5 and 30 degrees. We'll require that the slope is level at the eave and the ridge, and that the slope is integrated into the substructure along the jamps of the curb or upstand. In addition, we'll obviously have to define the opening size. We can work with you to ensure that the opening size that you require aligns with the modules that are available, but we need to know the length and also the width along the slope of the roof opening. LAMILUX does provide this chart, which sort of makes it easier to find the relationship between the module height and the height of the opening on the horizontal plane. So looking at this chart, you can see on the x-axis at the top, we have the nominal module heights that LAMILUX has available. At the bottom, we have the clear ceiling opening width, which is the structural dimension taken on the horizontal, basically the view you'll have from below. And we can see that on the y-axis, we have the inclination angle of the substructure. So just to kind of give an example here, for a module height of about 90.5 inches and a inclination of about 19 degrees, we can see that the clear ceiling opening width on the horizontal will be about 78.75 inches. And now the fun part, assembling the MS78. I think this is really what sets the system apart, is how easily it can be installed on site. As I mentioned earlier, in most cases, it can be installed as quickly as a day. And it can be installed without much prior experience, as the assembly process is relatively simple. That being said, 475 is happy to provide on-site representation for all MS78 installations to ensure a high level of quality control and a good understanding of the system from the contractor and the client. So for starters, when assembling the MS78, we'll uncrate our base frames, which are the basic structure for the modular system. The base frames are crated so that as you're removing them from the crate, they can be installed with the first module coming from the crate on the leftmost side of the opening, and then in sequence from left to right. They'll always be created with the leftmost module first, and then moving in the rightward direction to the far end of the skylight. So here we can see that the base frames are placed on the site substructure. The only step prior to placing those base frames is ensuring that the site substructure is level and that it matches the requirements defined in the shop drawings. These base frames can then be set in place. You can see at the eaves and the ridge connected to the base frame is what LAMILUX calls a load converter, which are mounted to the load-bearing surfaces and are the primary mechanical attachment to the site substructure. As you install the modules in sequence, they are connected via a very simple tongue and groove assembly, which you can see here in the image on the right, which allows one module to be placed directly into the previous module without any mechanical connections required at that location. The mechanical connections come at the load converters themselves, where a fastener is used to attach adjacent load converters to one another, which secures the modules together. The placement of the first module is particularly critical, as the initial module alignment is key to determining the direction of the following ones. So ensuring that that is oriented properly in the opening is really important as a first step. Just to demonstrate how simple the mounting of these base frames really is, we were in Germany earlier this year. Floris, the CEO of 475, and myself, along with a variety of our colleagues from all around the world who support LAMILUX internationally. And we actually got to assemble one of these MS78 systems in an office space as sort of a demonstration. And you can see that in this application, without prior experience and wearing business casual attire, we were able to simply and efficiently place these base frames into place in the sequence as required, attaching them via those fasteners to the load converters and mounting them to the substructure below. As a second step, we can attach the flashing membrane, or as LAMILUX calls it, the foil, to the perimeter of the skylight. You can see here a section in the top left, which just demonstrates how this membrane is adhered to the substructure, as well as to the module itself, spanning the perimeter gap and providing a secondary flashing or a secondary water protection. The flashing membrane is self-adhering, it's vapor tight, and it's applied as part of the kit of parts from LAMILUX. As a next step, we're going to be mounting these, what LAMILUX calls gable load sword, which is basically just a structural support for the water drainage channel, which gets clipped on above. So you can see here in the bottom right, the gable load sword, which is fastened into the modules just beneath these water drainage channels and provides a support for these water drainage channels, which then clip into place on the swords and allow for water that runs through that butt drainage channel to be moved away from the site structure and away from the skylight assembly. You can also see in this image that for every one of the load converters, we've installed a hold down device, as LAMILUX calls it, which is securing or providing greater security of the load converters to the site boat substructure. These metal brackets are lapping the load converters, are fastened through to the substructure, and then are fastened through again at the perimeter. So when we were in Germany assembling the system, and also the way that it's shown in the installation instructions, The next step is typically, I think, to mount the modules in the base frames. I think it's simpler to mount the modules into the base frames prior to insulating and then installing the weather sheets because it's just easier to access the base frames themselves. You don't have to reach over any additional part of the assembly. For purposes of this presentation, for whatever reason, LAMILUX shows this step next, which is also perfectly fine. In this case, they're cutting and inserting rock wool insulation, which is again supplied as part of the MS78 kit of parts. This is going to ensure that we are mitigating the thermal bridge between the load converter and the the hold down devices, which do run from exterior to interior, or I guess from the outer edge of the site substructure to the outer edge of the module, and could provide some moderate thermal bridging if not properly insulated. That insulation is then concealed by the mounting of the weather sheets. These weather sheets are mounted in sequence, starting at the eaves and then going to the jambs, first left and right, ensuring that the weather sheets lap over one another. And then finally at the ridge, these weather sheets clip into place under the modules themselves and are then fastened to one another using screws provided by LAMILUX, again, as part of that kit of parts. And then finally, the actual modules themselves can be inserted into the base frame. This really is as simple as just lifting the modules, aligning them with the base frame, and then setting them down in place. The modules are then held into place in the base frame using hinges and hinge pins. You can see here in the image on the left that fixed modules will have 2 hinges at the top and the bottom, ensuring that they're fixed in place. The modules themselves have small brackets, which align with these perimeter hinges, and then they're held together via a pin. You can also see here that the venting modules are mounted via connection to the chain drive below. So that chain drive, once the chain drive is in place and you're ready to install the module, you can run that chain drive up through a small penetration in the module, connecting it to the venting module above, and then allowing it to open and close via that chain drive actuator. So with that sort of simplicity and efficiency, the system is complete. You can see here that this MS78 does utilize, as I mentioned, identical module widths at either end, the left and the right of the Skylight system, but we are utilizing some wider modules at the interior or at the middle of the Skylight system. In addition, here you can see the native vent integration. So despite the fact that we know this module here, second from the right, is venting, and this module here on the far right is fixed, there is virtually no difference in appearance between the two, and the chain drive is fully concealed both from the interior and the exterior. So that concludes my presentation. Thanks so much for joining today, everyone. Happy to stick around and answer any questions, and looking forward to hopefully collaborating with you all very soon.
Excellent. Great job, Jeremy. We do got a couple questions, so we'll dive that in a second here. But I mean, overall, slick system. Hopefully you got a few orders, and hopefully your crew is gearing up for some great installs either later this Q4 or early Q1 of 2025. So exciting stuff. Maybe I'll ask one first just to get things going is what are you most excited about this addition to the full LAMILUX line that you now offer in North America?
It's a great question because I am very excited to be able to bring this product to market. And I think of the solutions that LAMILUX has sort of introduced during my time as a product consultant, this is probably the most excited I've been. And the reason is that the PR60, which I talked about previously on the component spotlight, but just to give a brief summary, it's a knockdown system or a mullion and transom system. It offers an exceptional level of design flexibility. It can be engineered in virtually any size, shape, orientation, ridged roofs, pyramid roofs, barrel roofs, virtually any sort of roof daylighting element you can design, the PR60 can achieve, which is fantastic. But because each PR60 system is engineered uniquely, there's a lot of labor that goes into the engineering of the Skylight, the production of the shop drawings, and then the production of each unique PR60, because it's less automated and then less prefabricated, is more lengthy. So the PR60 is generally going to be about 20% more expensive than the MS78, and it's going to have a lead time that is about 20 weeks as compared to the MS78, which is about 15 weeks. In addition, the PR60 is usually going to take at least 3 days to install, in some cases as much as 5 to 10 days or more for particularly large applications. And as I mentioned, the MS78 really will most likely never take more than 2 days, just regardless of the length to fully install in place, which also, in addition to providing efficiency on site, creates some cost savings in that we do provide installation representation, and that person who we provide will only need to be on site for 1 to 2 days.
Awesome. Great stuff. Okay, let's go to the chat because there's a few more individuals that are asking questions, which is great. So keep dumping questions in there. We'll get to them. First, we're going to start off with Dan Johnson. Dan, if you want to hop on and ask your question, I know Jeremy is ready to take care of things. So Dan, go ahead. And Dan, if you're don't have the ability to, I can ask it for you. Give you a couple seconds here. Dan Johnson asked, is there NFRC certification or WDMA?
So the system will be modeled in accordance with NFRC. I don't think we have NFRC results yet, but we're hoping that they'll be available shortly after the product launch. In this case, the system is tested in accordance with ASTM and also CSA requirements. ASTM and WDMA are both sort of broad regulatory structures. And in this case, the PR60 the MS78 being tested in accordance with ASTM is sufficient to achieve code compliance in the US, particularly.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, Tommy Manuel. Tommy, come on. It's a great question given what's occurred in the US last week. Tommy, are you still there? Tommy's question was, are these impact rated for hurricane-prone regions?
These have not been tested for impact rating here in the United States as of this time. It's possible that there's European testing available, but I can't speak to that off the top of my head here. So in regions where that may be a requirement, we would need to determine what sort of, materials or information can be provided to demonstrate that the system is impact resistant. LAMILUX, for all their skylight systems, does provide IGUs that are exterior tempered and interior laminated, which does provide a certain element of fall-through protection in particular, and potentially by using some sort of material on the project site to protect these skylights during a heavy storm event, we could potentially skirt the requirements for impact rating testing on the skylight itself.
Gotcha. All right, great stuff. Tommy, glad to help you out. And if that answered your question, great. If you got any follow-up, let me know. Peter, I see that your camera doesn't work either, so I'll take care of that question. But now we are over to Paul.
Yeah, just wondering if the motorized operator the electronics is UL approved.
It is, yes. The chain drives are supplied via Windowmaster, which is a company that does supply electrical and mechanical solutions here in the US and Canada, and that does have UL certification for all the products such as the chain drive that it offers here.
Right, perfect. Thank you in advance.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, that's a great question because I know we've had a couple of other LAMILUX where we had to make sure we had the right power sources. So it all can be taken care of by 475 and the team at LAMILUX. Great stuff.
Yeah. I would also mention that those chain drives are 24 volt powered, and that in addition to the chain drives themselves, we're also able to offer ramp down transformers or motor controllers for operation and control of the chain drives and the venting glass fields, as well as momentary rocker switches, key switches for the actual control of and operation of the venting units. And we can also offer automation as part of that same system for wind and rain.
Great stuff. I see that Johnny answered Ambrose's question. So moving over to Penny. Penny, go ahead.
Yeah, the base curve which is such a nice clean thing in your presentation, it is from you or do we build it ourselves?
So let me go back here a few slides. Looking here, I think this is actually a good demonstration here. The wood structure shown in these images, which could also be steel or concrete, will need to be constructed, flashed, and insulated by the contractor or by others. That's not typically part of our scope. But once that is finished, everything above that curve, including the mechanical, flashing, and thermal connections, will be engineered and supplied by LAMILUX.
Sure.
Yeah, hopefully that answers, because I know the other LAMILUX have some really nice again bases there that gets applied, but that one you got to make sure you're taking care of all your thermal bridging and all those fun details. Which again, Jeremy can help out too. If you have any questions or concerns, he knows how to do this stuff, and you can definitely work with your passive house consultants to make sure that designs are correctly done. So moving along, Peter's mic's not working, so are typical details available for review? And Peter, I guess, are you talking about the frames or the curb details? But of course, you saw in the presentation that the details are there. But maybe any specific points there, Jeremy, about some other details that might need to be reviewed. I mean, you offered shop drawing, so I think they're taken care of. But maybe Peter, if we need to elaborate, go for it.
I guess just to answer that first question, absolutely. If you want to get in touch via the email on the screen, I'm happy to provide details for the MS78. I currently have them on hand as a PDF, but I was just thinking earlier this morning that I should request them as DWG or CAD file as well. And I think that via the LAMILUX product configurator, I could probably have those sort of file types for you as well on short notice. But in general, what's nice about the system is the requirements for the substructure, which will be the primary element we're considering during the design development process, are predefined. So we can go through those parameters together and ensure that they're included in your drawings and defined as necessary. But in general, there won't be much thinking, so to speak, required in that we'll kind of tell you what we need and just ask that you design for and construct those elements accordingly.
Great stuff. And then John, you're next. And we'll come back to Peter in a second here. John had a question. I may have missed in the presentation, but how does the skylight address the common issue with skylights being overheating or loss of heat for the building? Does it attempt to solve the issue, or do we weight this part of the design?
So the MS78 is a thermally broken solution. It has thermally broken extrusions that ensure that we're minimizing heat transfer through the skylight profiles. It has triple layer insulated glazing with a warm edge spacer to ensure we're minimizing heat transfer through the glass, both through its glazing surface and at its perimeter. And then at the perimeter of the skylight, we are installing a pretty significant layer of mineral wool insulation, which is going to ensure we have thermal continuity with the surrounding roof structure. So we are definitely virtually eliminating significant thermal bridging to the point where there's virtually no risk of condensation. You'll see many similar glass roof systems or modular skylights that perhaps have an interior gutter or some way of dealing with condensation that does occur due to the fact that they're not thermally broken. But for the MS78, there are no concessions available or no concessions provided for condensation because there is virtually no risk of it occurring.
Yeah, great point, Jeremy. I mean, that's what I think what's beautiful about LAMILUX is just how well they perform as a skylight, that most people worry about even, years in performance, that these things really work very nice and you're getting that amazing daylighting that you want in certain spaces. So great stuff. Peter has a kind of a follow-up question. Are there installation systems to allow attaching the ridge side to a vertical building element, or what is recommended minimum clearance to vertical elements?
That is a good question. At this time, there is no, the system cannot be mounted to a vertical element at the ridge. We do require that horizontal or sloped structure on all four sides with that width of 10¼ inches. That being said, the curb width having to be 10¼ inches does set back the roof opening from any vertical wall that might be on the far side of that structure. And the weather sheets themselves do overhang that structure. So there's probably an additional maybe 2 inches or so beyond the site substructure we'll need for to make room for those weather sheets that you can see here at the perimeter. So we're probably looking at from the opening to a vertical element, I would say at least a foot, maybe slightly more.
Gotcha. And why don't you leave that slide up for just a second? Because my kind of question is there any silicone or caulking needed in between any of those joints? Does that come with the kit, or is it necessary?
There is no silicone or caulking required. The modules themselves are pre-glazed and ready to be set into the base frames. And the connections both between the base frames and between the modules and the base frames are watertight once they are assembled. So no, there's no need for application of caulking or silicone. There's no glazing required on site. It really is sort of as simple as plug and play. I did want to mention one thing that I think I left out previously. Here in the image on the right, you can see that once the module is set into place, there are some sort of raw exposed elements that are shown here. But LAMILUX does provide sort of cover caps for these end pieces, as well as decorative strips for the perimeter, so that you are getting a nice finished, clean look, such as what you see in this image.
Gotcha. Yeah, nice follow-up. Great stuff. Well, we're just putting a last call out for questions, Jeremy. I mean, great stuff. Again, it's nice to have another addition to the LAMILUX line in North America that you guys provide in service. Just given the question queue here a couple more seconds just to make sure that we've captured everyone's questions and concerns. But otherwise, my friend, I think that is it. I'm kind of stalling here. I just want to make sure that we took care of everything here. Cost is very, sorry, yeah. Cost, always the last one. It seems like it was like our good friend Harvey that we know well that likes talking about cost. So Peter's got the Harvey question is, talk about us about money.
Yeah, so a little bit difficult to define. I've only received an estimate for one specific MS78 as sort of just a cost comparison exercise. But I can tell you that pricing will probably start for smaller systems around $17,000 to $20,000, with shipping varying depending on shipping location and installation representation, probably priced at about $1,000 to $1,500 a day, depending on where our technician is traveling to. But yeah, as a starting cost for the system, I would say $17,000 to $20,000 for maybe an MS78 that's about 3 or 4 feet by 10 to 12 feet.
Gotcha. Well, like as you said earlier in the presentation too, I mean, there's some cost savings because of the modular components of it all, and when you're comparing it to some of the other LAMILUX, but again, it's a superior product on the marketplace, and when you look at the de-risking of condensation and as well as giving you great lighting, it is a great option.
Absolutely. I think the combination of design flexibility and performance does set it apart and provide a great deal of value. I think that for the price, it's definitely a useful product to have in your tool belt.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I guess that wraps up everything with you, Jeremy. Again, always appreciate hearing the latest and greatest from 475 as well as the daylighting division. Maybe I'll just turn over to Zach to say some parting words, but always good to see you.
Likewise, Sean. Thanks, everyone.
Great, thank you. And Sean, thanks so much for being the Q&A concierge today. Jeremy, fantastic presentation, and thanks for sharing this exciting new product with us. Also, a big thanks to LAMILUX and 475 High Performance Building Supply for helping to underwrite the work that we do here at Passive House Accelerator. And of course, a big thank you to everyone who joined us today. I know everyone's busy, so it's great to have you here and asking these great questions. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and we'll hopefully see you next week.